Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 8 p.m. in Cairo, time for our Panorama News, where we bring you the latest on the political, business, and sports segments. I'm Sally Lamnoum, and I will be bringing you the political segment, but first, the headlines. In an article in Daily News Egypt, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stresses political and economic reform continue. Finance Minister inaugurates the Euromoney Conference. And Egypt's sunken antiquities at display in Paris exhibition. Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed that political and economic reform policies will continue. This came in an article the president wrote in Daily News Egypt on the occasion of Egypt hosting the Euromoney Annual Conference, which started on Monday. In the article, the president reviewed his vision for the future of the Egyptian economy and the targets to be achieved by the government. The president explained the effect of the government's decision to amend the income tax and restructure the energy subsidy system. He said that those decisions increased the allocations to education and health in the new budget. President el-Sisi noted that while it's too early to estimate the outcome of the current economic policies, it's worth mentioning that a 4.2% growth rate was reported in the 2014-2015 fiscal year. He noted that the government is targeting a 5% growth rate in the current fiscal year due to the increase of the flow of direct foreign investment. The 20th anniversary of the Euromoney Egypt conference took place today with the attendance of a big number of representatives of world-leading companies and financial institutions. The conference was inaugurated by Ministers of Finance and Investment. This today conference is held under the theme Financing the Future and focuses on the financing of the planned projects. Nile TV's Linda Abdel Latif has more in the following report.
On the sidelines of the 20th anniversary of the Euromoney Egypt conference, I'm being joined right now by Mrs. Victoria Ben, who's the Director of Middle East for Euromoney Conferences. Mrs. Victoria, thank you so much for being with us today on Nile TV International.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here.
Could you please give us like an introduction on this year's conference?
Yeah, this is, as you said, this is our 20th anniversary Euromoney Egypt conference, and it's an important year. So the theme of the conference this year is financing the future, so how to mobilize capital to revitalize Egypt's economy.
The opening session of the conference included conversations with ministers of finance and investment, besides conversations as well with representatives of world-leading companies and financial institutions. During the session, Minister of Finance, Dr. Hani Adri Demien, said that Egypt is looking forward to more economic growth, especially with the latest economic events that Egypt has witnessed recently.
We are inspired with the reforms that we have done. We're inspired with the successes we have achieved on the political stance, on the economic stance, and we are going to continue.
The conference also consisted of a number of workshops covering a wide variety of topics. The workshops included discussions on the Suez Canal corridor, as well as the Egyptian energy and electricity sector.
We started by market testing in different areas, and also we started with a project management plan to see when and what this will be done. We started with the two ports, East Port Said Port and Sukna Port, and it is running now. We were expecting infrastructure for the major industrial area to be in place in a time of 18 months. And I think now is the time to start approaching investors everywhere. The energy mix in Egypt will be 60% thermal, 20% renewable, 20% coal-fired plants. We have in the pipeline the 20% coal-fired plants. We have in the pipeline the 20% solar and wind. And also we have more than the 60% by the plan of 14,100 megawatt with the global market. It has to do with our relations, the trading relations with specific markets like Asia.
Egypt is attractive because of the size of the population and because the government seems to be following the right economic policies, particularly on reform. You've seen an increase in foreign investment into the power sector, and that is partly because of the reforms, it's partly because of the demand for electricity in Egypt, but yes, I think those reforms have been very worthwhile.
The other workshops also included discussions on real estate, construction and housing, besides the topic of financial inclusion. Linda Abdulatif, Nile TV International.
Agriculture Minister was detained on Monday shortly after tendering his resignation amid a corruption investigation. The detention of Salah ad-Din Hilal comes after the administrative prosecution issued a gag order last week on a corruption investigation into the allocation of state land, which implicated a number of senior agriculture ministry officials. A statement from the Prime Minister's office said Hilal resigned on orders from President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. El-Sisi has emphasized that he is fighting corruption. Prime Minister Ibrahim Mahlab attended on Monday the signing ceremony of a contract to establish and run a logistical service and trade zone in Tanta City, El Gharbiya Governorate. The agreement was signed between the Domestic Trade Authority and an international investment company as part of the 2030 strategic plan to establish more trade zones in all governorates. Earlier, Mahlab held a meeting to follow up on development plans for the southern areas of Halayib, Shalatin, Abu Ramad and Bernis. During the meeting, the Prime Minister stressed on the importance of implementing all developmental projects in the south to create more job opportunities and sources of income. Mahlab also ordered studies to be conducted on establishing factories needed in the area as well as building oil service facilities by the end of the year. Prime Minister Ibrahim Mahlab said the income of the civil servants will not be affected under the new law. Speaking at a press conference, the Premier said that regulations for implementing the new civil servants law is to be issued soon. Mahlab noted that those regulations will take into consideration the interest of the employee. He cautioned that the government will not allow any halt at work in any of the state installations. He warned of attempts to cause chaos in the political scene ahead of the upcoming parliamentary elections. French President François Hollande and Egypt's Minister of Antiquities Mamdouh Al-Damati, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and Minister of Tourism Khaled Rami inaugurated the exhibition Osiris Egypt's Sunken Mysteries. The exhibition, which is hosted by the French capital Paris, displays over 290 pieces from Egypt's latest underwater archaeological discoveries related to the legend of Osiris, the pharaoh god of afterlife, as well as other antiquities from Egypt's National Museum and Greek-Roman Museum. We have the details in the following report.
Osiris Egypt's Sunken Mysteries is one of the highlights of the excavations directed by the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities in collaboration with Frank Goudiel in the western part of the Nile Delta. In 1,100 meters display space, over 290 artifacts are presented. Most were related to the legend of Osiris, the pharaoh god of afterlife, and it was discovered in the recent underwater excavations. There were also some 40 splendid exhibits on loan from the museums of Cairo and Alexandria. Some are rare objects that have never before been seen in France, and even some that have never been seen outside of Egypt before. Thus, without exception, all the exhibits have traveled from Egypt. The exhibit consists of 3 sections. The first presents the myth of Osiris and its protagonists. The second is the most important, consisting of the archaeological sites and evidence for the ritual of celebration of the mysteries of Osiris. The third and last section, the visitor here discovers how the ancient myth has evolved over the time and space and how it was adapted at different sites that explains the diversity of its representations. A spectacular scenery of changing mood, the colors, the lighting, underwater photographs and videos, the objects discovered by the archaeologist divers at the bottom of the sea all reflect in the masterpieces at loan from the museums of Egypt.
The High Election Committee announced that the number of candidates applying in the upcoming parliamentary elections reached 4,136 till Sunday, including 230 women. The committee announced that it will receive only the new medical checkup reports submitted by the candidates upon the ruling passed by the Administrative Judicial Court that has refuted previous old reports. The HAC started receiving applications on the 1st of September, and candidates have 12 days to submit their applications for both list and individual seats. The committee announced that the parliamentary elections will kick off on October 17, 2015. The final lists of candidates will be announced on September 28th so that they can start their electoral campaigns. The committee decided that the elections would be held on 2 phases. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry headed on Monday to the French capital Paris in a European tour that will also take him to London. In Paris, Shoukry will meet his French counterpart Laurent Fabius for talks on boosting bilateral relations in all fields, on fighting terrorism and the international efforts exerted in this domain. He is also scheduled to participate and give a speech in the inauguration of the exhibition Osiris Egypt Sunken Mysteries, hosted by Paris from September 8th to January 31st. In London, the top diplomat will hold talks with his British counterpart, Britain's National Security Councillor and his deputy, on bilateral political and economic relations and the two countries' vision on the situations in Libya, Yemen, Iraq and Syria, as well as combating terrorism. The Interior Ministry announced that 5 policemen were injured on Monday when gunmen shot them as they tried to escape a security checkpoint in El Bahira Governorate. Security sources said that an investigation was launched to identify the attackers.